The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are webcasting to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the new home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters. It's also the new home for Autism Live. And we are webcasting from our very new studio on the 18th floor of Tower 1. Thrilled to be here with you on this wonderful Wednesday morning at the beginning of September when people are getting all back to school. We're welcoming some of you back that have been away for the summer, and now I've been getting emails and messages from all of you that you're excited because you're going to catch up on shows and be back with us, and we've got a great show for you to come back with. Because it's Wednesday, we have, first of all, Dr. Doreen Granpeche for Ask Dr. Doreen. She's here to answer your questions in real time. We're excited to have her with us. In the second hour today, it'll be Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson is here. She's going to be with me, and our very special guest is a gentleman who is an animator. He makes interactive avatars. And this is something that was created to be a marketing tool at conferences and for booths at trade shows. But the interesting thing about it is that it's a very effective tool at gaining the attention of children on the autism spectrum. Wait till you see it. It's wicked cool. You'll want to play with one too. And of course, our kids do as well. So make sure that you're watching in the second hour so you can see about an interactive avatar. They're animated and they're really, really cool. So that's what's coming up. But we want to remind you at this point in the show that the whole show is meant to be interactive. We want to hear from you. We want you to participate. We want you to help drive the bus and tell us what you want to talk about. So how can you participate? Kelby's going to show you some of the different ways that you can be watching the show and some of the different ways that you can write in. While he's doing that, I will remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, lots of things to do. Please sign up for our email list. It's free. You will get a free monthly news guide, and you will get the free weekly viewer guide, which tells you who's going to be on the show and if there's any last-minute changes, which if you watch the show, you know we have a lot of last-minute changes. It's live. That's what it's all about. I want to remind you that when you are on the home page, you can be watching the live show by clicking on the triangle that is on the screen or below it. It's different depending on what your operating system is. That will key you into the live show or the most recently recorded live show. If you want to go further back, you can watch up to the most recent 100 episodes on that site by clicking on the playlist in the upper left-hand corner. If you want to go further back than that, check out the YouTube channel, which has all of our videos archived, and you can search them by topic, by names. It's pretty exciting. Now, also on the homepage is the live feature. That's the series of white boxes. Put your cursor in the one that says your question, start typing, and that's it, except you do have to push enter. That's the one thing you have to do. But you don't have to log in. You don't have to remember a password or a username or any of that. And hopefully it will be a form of instant gratification that you can be talking to me and talking, more importantly, to our experts, which brings me right back to the fact that it is time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeche is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeche.
Dr. Granpeche.
Dr. Doreen Granpeche.
Dr. Doreen Granpeche is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
Good morning and welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is here with us this morning to answer your questions in live time. Thank you so much for being here.
It's always a pleasure. Good morning.
It's always our thrill. For those of you who watch the show, you know that Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is really the preeminent expert in the field of autism in our generation.
I'm not sure that's very
well,
nice of you to say, but
I think I'm qualified to say that. So I'm
very
going to
generous.
claim that I'm qualified to say that.
Thank you.
And just as importantly, not only you're an expert in this field who has multiple decades of experience working with individuals on the spectrum from very young children to adults, but you're a visionary in this field that helps all of us to see where we've come from and more importantly where we're going to, because I think there are a lot of things. Sometimes I feel like the bug riding on a lawnmower, that it's just like things popping into my face.
Well, I hope that's true, and I hope that we can kind of more or less predict what's coming in the future so we can, I guess, prepare for it.
Yeah. And, it's so funny that I will hear parents talk from time to time about, why isn't somebody doing this? And I go, it's funny you should say that because
we're doing it or
CARD,
we're trying to
CARD
do
is
it.
already doing it,
Yeah.
or CARD has that coming. That's like
Right.
maybe 3 weeks away.
So thank you. That's the nice side of it, and we're very fortunate at CARD because we get to do these things because, we put all of our funds back into research and development and so on and so forth. But then the negative side of kind of somewhat predicting the future with a certain level of accuracy is the fear of where we're going. Like, I constantly worry about how one of our questions actually prompted this right now for me as I was looking at the questions right now was I really worry about the how providers now are even recommending very, very watered down services and hours, and it truly concerns me because I think that at some point in the past when special education services began, they were much more intensive than what they turned into, and or speech and or various other things were more effective. And when you take an effective intervention and you water it down so that you're doing about a quarter of what you're supposed to be doing, then it becomes ineffective, and then obviously with time the insurance coverage and all of this goes away because it's now an ineffective intervention. So that is something very concerning for me.
Well, and I want to add to that we have experts who are saying to families, this is an appropriate number of hours, 15, and that even sounds shocking to the families, but it becomes their new normal. Oh, well, 15 hours is what's appropriate. And then we have families that maybe they have more hours on the docket, but because they have heard this and they think 15 sounds like a lot too, maybe they have 25 hours and they're not using the full 25 hours.
Yeah, and of course along with that is also the fact that it's very hard to fill hours and therapists come and go and schedules change and all that sort of stuff. Used to be a lot easier. I would recommend 40 hours a week. I would provide 40 hours a week, and it was it worked. And right now, we might as well just hit one of these questions, just because it was the last one I just read, where it said, my son is 46 months old. We're in the evaluation process for getting ABA. My BCBA told me, though, she was asking for 15 hours for the behavior assistant, and she would come in 2 hours a week for training. She said 2 hours a week is the standard. Is this correct? Seems low for training hours, and how long will she be able to train the assistant? Worried because my son has speech but not varied and echoes a lot. When we go to the playground, he sounds like the teachers. It's so... This is the type of child that your child's for. So from my perspective, this is the type of child that should be getting an intensive program. Because he is verbal and he's trying to develop language through the echolalia. And so, I would recommend for this child a full program, which would be about a 40-hour program. And then the recommendation for supervision in relation to therapy is at least a 1-to-10 ratio, so that if you're doing 40 hours a week of therapy, you're doing 4 hours of supervision per week.
And that's supervision, not training, correct?
Not training at all. So parent training is a completely separate issue, and of course from the perspective of funding, most funding agencies expect parents to be very well trained. I agree that parents should be very well trained because you generalize a lot of this stuff and you help the child adapt and apply a lot of the stuff that they learn to real life. So I think that's very important, but I don't necessarily think that as parents we can actually take over portions of those 40 hours. Perhaps it's possible in some cases, but it is pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
So parent training is a separate issue. It should be provided intensively at first, and as the parents sort of begin to get the basic ideas, then you can reduce that. In fact, we're in the middle of just doing a research project right now on the effect of parent training, so, and how it influences the outcome. So that's all very important, but you know, the big thing for me is like really intensity matters. It really does. It's like taking a quarter of a dosage of a medication. It's not going to be effective.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it's sort of that mass hypnosis kind of thing that if the insurance company says that 15 hours is
Right.
appropriate and then the BCBA says that it's appropriate, then the parent feels it is appropriate. But, you know, that's mass hypnosis. That's not the case. We know it's not. You know, you can go back and ask the insurance company, you can ask the BCBA, where is your data that supports that my child's going to get to the outcome that I'm expecting and that
Right.
I'm hoping for,
Right.
and that I'm giving them the best possible chance. And what you will get is a lot of, well,
Yeah.
we don't want to build up false expectations.
And that's really important. I would even, because it's someone who's board certified, I would tell them if I were you, I would go online and download the BACB, that's the organization, it's the Behavior Analysis Certification Board. I don't know what they call it. It's the BACB guidelines for ABA. And it's a document that's somewhere around 100 pages. And if you look through it, there's a section that says recommendations. And it will specifically say focused programs or comprehensive programs. Your child is 4 and should be fine to do a comprehensive program, which means teaching the child everything, every area that he or she needs for acquisition of skills. A focus program is kind of working on one thing at a time, like potty training or challenging behavior or whatever it is. But if you're up for, and your child's well within the age range to do a comprehensive program, you'll see that comprehensive programs are above 30 hours a week. Right. You'll also see the ratio of therapy to supervision. So if you show that to the BCBA, they're going to get scared because BCBAs really do respect what the BACB says. I'm guessing this BCBA isn't aware of that.
Well, and I hope that is something that you can take and do so that you get your child to the point that you need to. But I want to say, and I know I shared this the other day, that part of my focus for the next calendar year is telling parents, get your hours, use your hours, whatever it takes.
Right.
Whatever it takes, whatever you have to put on the back burner, whatever you have to put on hold. This is a time in your life in which you're given an opportunity, I hope, or you're going to fight for the opportunity to do something that you will never get the opportunity to do again.
That's true.
And so whatever it takes.
Yeah, thank you for that, Shannon. And you know, honestly, as an organization that provides services to about 2,000 children at any given time, it is incredibly difficult as insurance companies keep reducing what they pay us for therapy. It's very, very difficult to retain therapists because we can't afford to pay them more and more. You know, like let's say a good therapist is someone who remains in the company for 2 years or more. And of course, then they would expect regular wage increases because their performance is better and they've learned more. Well, insurance companies are unfortunately taking us in the exact opposite direction, you know, whereas they started a couple of years ago with manageable rates, with managed healthcare coming in, it's all completely going down every year instead of going up. So we're giving increases and getting paid less. Right. And of course, the insurance and various funding sources never cover anything like travel time or mileage or any of the non-billable activities that have to do with like writing reports or looking at the data of your child or communicating with other therapists or any of that sort of stuff. So it ends up becoming a situation where even organizations and providers have a hard time providing the right thing. But if you do have hours, if you've received those hours, then I agree with Shannon. Training someone is not that difficult, nor is it that expensive. You know, we have the IBT site, obviously, which is intended for training. And you can take anyone. I mean, I have many of my friends' children or my own children as they've grown have gone on IBT and sat down and done all the modules and learned quite a bit from IBT. And so you can learn how to do these types of techniques, and with a little bit of supervision and practicum, practical expertise or experience, you get to become a pretty decent therapist. So if you have 30 hours and some provider, including us, is only able to provide you 20, don't waste those other 10 hours. Either do it yourself or have someone else who is a neighborhood friend or someone be trained to fulfill those hours. I can tell you, as probably the largest provider in ABA, I would happily employ therapists if parents helped us bring people in. We have a team of, I think, 8 recruiters now. We're constantly trying to recruit and we just can't catch up.
And it's something that I've been talking about with parents, that we can recommend people, that's a great thing we can do. But, whatever it takes, I think that's the thing. We need to get it done. There's no waiting.
Right.
So whatever it takes, get it done. Now, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back with a pretty exciting press release that came out this morning about something that CARD is doing, a new study that we're going to ask Dr. Grandpichet to tell us more about, because this is, I think, part of that visionary part of you that sees this. If we really want to talk about a long-term changing the playing field, I think this is what is key.
That's wonderful.
So we're going to take a break, and we're going to be back with more Ask Dr. Doreen after these messages.
It's every parent's desire for their child to have a great start in life. Yet there is a condition affecting more children's lives than pediatric cancer, diabetes, and AIDS combined. Autism strikes 1 in every 150 children.
Today, 1 in 110 kids in the U.S. will be diagnosed with autism. That is a huge jump from 30 years ago when it was 1 in 30,000.
Startling new report finds the number of children with autism is skyrocketing. The Centers for Disease Control estimates 1 in 68 children has a form of autism. Now that's a 30% increase in just 2 years.
Well, a lot of this with all the accomplishments over the last 20 years, I'm thrilled.
I think what kept me was the feeling that, I would have a parent come to my office late at night at UCLA and just fall apart. And this is a long time ago. There were much less back then in terms of services and knowledge and so on. And I would just sit with the family and the parents and walk them through and try to take away some of their fears, and at that point I realized, I think the thing that's actually most important to me is that process. I mean, thank God that I've been very, very lucky and blessed to have so many incredible clinicians join me along the way and just develop CARD in such an amazing, magnificent way. That I could, for me, it was more really about how can I help the families? What can I do for the moms, the dads? It is just, and I feel like, there's no way I would ever really know because I haven't had my own child go through this, but I've experienced it with people a lot of times.
Hi, this is Megan. I'm in 1st grade all by myself. My teachers are so fabulous. I like to read books. I like to go to my friends' birthday parties. I like to invite my friends to my birthday parties. I once had a sleepover with a friend. I like to have play dates with my friend. I'm the best reader in my class. I like to go to the library. I like to read different series of books. And here's how I learned to do all these things. By my CARD friends and Dr. Grandpichet. Thank you, CARD friends and Dr. Grandpichet.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is here with us. She's answering your questions in real time, but I wanted to take just a pause because I got a press release this morning that is about something very exciting that CARD is doing, and I would like if you would take a second and just tell our viewers about this project and this study, because for me, this signals real progress.
It's fabulous. Well, we're very lucky. You know, so a few years ago, I'm trying to remember when it was. It would be around 2008, I want to say. I went to a retreat. I'm not even sure really how I got invited to this retreat, because basically everybody there was more or less physicians or in the medical field, and there wasn't a single other person that had anything to do with ABA or speech or any of those, you know, softer sciences. And it was a fantastic experience. It was one of the most amazing experiences. This was a gentleman who was very, very wealthy, had put this whole thing together and had brought all these scientists together from all over the world to share kind of what's going on in their world. And there I met Jeremy Nicholson, a professor who is a chemist by background. And Jeremy is, I would say not probably, easily, I guess one of the maybe 2 or 3 most intelligent people I've ever met in my life. Like, Jeremy is an incredible guy. He's hard to keep up with, like brilliant scientist. And he now heads a large portion of Imperial College, and he gets a lot of grant funding for various things. And so, you know, he really was not all that involved with autism actually at that time. And we started talking, and I was just at the beginning of developing skills database. And skills, of course, on the user end for parents and providers and our therapists and supervisors, it's just information that, you know, it tells you how to program for a child and what to teach them. And the data that goes into it, our therapists, for instance, and many others outside of CARD, inputs information about children into the system. And of course, the information that we gather has to do with how fast a child is learning and how fast their challenging behaviors are dissipating. Right? Because that's what we do. Those are our 2 goals. So it's either mastery data or challenging behavior data, and it'll show the most important features, I suppose. Because when you look at yourself, let's say, it's funny because I was just telling you this earlier that I got very little sleep last night, so I'm worried about my performance or how I'm going to be able to think. And so really we measure our own performance or how we do in general as how well we respond to our environment, which really in our kids has to do with the skills they acquire and, you know, are they still tantruming? Are they still showing aggressive behavior and so on? Now, that's the goal in behavior intervention, and we do that all the time. But if you really think about it, it's the goal for pretty much any intervention. Like, you give a child a medication, what are you measuring? You're measuring how well the child's behavior changes, right? So you give them medication because, let's say, they're aggressive and you want to see if the aggression went down.
Right.
You give them a medication because they're not talking and you want to see if it increases their attention and language, or self-stimulatory behavior goes down, or whatever it is, right? So you're trying to change the direction of behavior. So it occurred to me that we could look at these lines of acquisition of how fast the child learns a positive behavior or giving up a negative behavior, and look at it in conjunction with other types of things that would affect the same curve. So, you know, can I actually look at all the children in skills database and say, oh, all of these children are receiving, let's say, Ritalin or Adderall, medication for ADHD or attention, and look at when they start taking Adderall, does it actually, so let's say a child's learning at, you know, a percentage rate, does it suddenly make that go faster? Does it accelerate their learning? Does it make their behaviors go down? I actually saw a lot of this with kids when I was tracking them one-on-one, and especially things like antifungal medications on a child that really had a lot of fungus. Like, you'd see drastic change in behavior, right? Which kind of makes sense if you really think about it. Or like sleep patterns, like when you have children who don't sleep and you give them melatonin or something that helps them sleep, all of a sudden their learning increases. And it's kind of a no-brainer,
right.
I guess.
It's the duh. I
It's
always
the
call it
duh,
the duh.
exactly.
But when you see it on paper, it gives you that confirmation.
Absolutely. And so it's so, or it's something we forget, let's put it that way, Shannon. We're so engaged in, I need to do intensive ABA, which is true. You need to do intensive ABA because that's your teaching to the child. but you need to take care of all the other things because they also have an effect, which means the dietary issues, the sleep issues, in general, how the child feels. I always say that, right? I mean, that's the same with us.
Right.
Okay. So as this was happening and I started speaking with Jeremy about, like, this is what I'm interested in. I'm interested in seeing all the different factors that can influence behavior, not just behavioral intervention. And he said, well, why? And I said, well, the reason is that I want to make what we do more effective, right? So you look at why do we have about half of our children who learn very slowly and half of our children who are just rapid learners, right? Why is that? And how do I take the ones that are learning slowly and make it so that they actually learn fast?
Right.
How do I turn that around? And so as we got to discussing this, we realized that the interest that I had was more in terms of making things efficient, and the only way to do that is to first phenotype these clusters, produce clusters of children, and identify groups and characteristics of each group, and then look at the kids in those clusters who are doing the best.
Right.
So let's say you have, you know, X number of kids, and of course the clusters have to be larger. We're already doing cluster analysis now.
Which is so exciting.
Oh, it's
to me.
unbelievable. If you see some of the data that's coming out of Skills right now, because we are very lucky to also have a partnership now with a group at Chapman University, and they're all mathematics geniuses, and of course they're like looking at all the patterns that are emerging through our data. But what's fascinating for me is that they're looking at these various clusters, and you can see these kids based on various features, let's say, you know, demographic features like the age of entry, male or female, the type of medications, because we've collected all of that, the hours of intervention, and so on. And then we can see kind of how that affects their results, how they're doing. You know, is it really true that more hours do better? Yes. You know, is it really true that the more supervision actually you have somewhat of a better effect? Not really. The ratio is more into therapy than so. So we're finding, and you know, as I started doing this, I was like, oh, this is going to be very interesting when. As you know, when a pharmaceutical company wants to try out a new medication, and there are very few, there's 2 that are FDA approved for autism only. If you really want to start looking at that and getting through trials is almost impossible with autism.
Yeah.
Why? Because there's a huge spectrum. And a medication will work with this end of the spectrum and not on that end. So when you look at an FDA trial, the medication might look as neutralizing because some responded, some didn't. Now, when you look at our database, the fascinating thing about it is I can currently pull literally all of the children who are taking, let's say, Risperdal, all of them, and contrast them to other children who are in other ways similar, who are not taking Risperdal. Right? And I can say it is overall globally having a positive effect or not.
Right.
Whether it's increasing their rate of acquisition or decreasing their challenging behaviors faster. And when you get to 10,000 children, which we're past 5,000 or 6,000, you really can make those assumptions. You don't really need to know too much about the child. You just have to, you know, match in certain characteristics. So what are those characteristics? So how do we want to define these clusters?
Right.
One definition is just by the way they behave. We have that.
Right.
One is their genetics.
Right.
We're doing that through our collaboration with Lineagen and various other companies. So we're collecting all of the genetic data. And then, of course, one is metabolomic data, or metabolic data, essentially. So metabolic data looks at the when you eat foods or when you're exposed to various things, you produce byproducts, and those are called metabolites.
Right.
And those metabolites then give us a lot of information about how you are detoxifying, how you're receiving nutrition, what is different about your biochemistry. And I've always said that I feel that there's more in autism, it has more to do with biochemistry than with hard structures, like, you know, the brain is damaged. I don't think that's the case. I think it has to do with more fluid, soft structures like biochemical imbalances.
Yes.
And so that's what we find out from this research. Now we were, and thanks again to Jeremy, honestly, and I have to write myself a note to thank him because he was really the person responsible for making this grant happen. And he's a pretty amazing person. As I said, I'm thrilled just to actually have a publication and do this research with him because he's such a genius. This metabolic study will also show us if our kids, for instance, are reacting positively or negatively to very basic things like Tylenol, Advil, and so on and so forth, which are critical factors in autism.
Absolutely.
For instance, with Tylenol, because it increases the phenol intake, is that slowing down their toxicity and their redox cycle so they're not detoxifying from other things? There's a lot of powerful data going to come out of this. And Jeremy has gotten us the funds. Now what we're doing with our children, and of course we would like to include other children as well, is we are taking stool and urine samples and sending these on dry ice to Imperial College so that they can do this metabolic analysis. Very long response, but it tells you how excited I am.
But so, and to give you, the headline, which we buried, but that CARD and Imperial College are collaborating. They're doing advanced research knowledge on metabolic profiles of children with autism.
Yes.
And, if you at all think, oh, well, this is so far away, this has nothing to do with me, I would caution you to back up and think about this. The way that I always explain it to people, because anybody says phenotyping autism, and I get so excited, and I can be at a dinner party, people that have nothing to do with autism will say to me, I don't get it. And I say, okay, let's go back to 1912 and talk about cancer. And if you got a diagnosis of cancer in if you got a diagnosis of cancer in 1912, it was you had cancer, and there was one treatment for cancer, and it worked for some people and it didn't, and people died all the time.
Absolutely.
Right? And then they discovered, well, wait a second, there's liver cancer, and there's lung cancer, and there's brain cancer, and then there's metastasizing cancer that goes to other things, and then there's small cell fast growing cancer.
Exactly.
And there's large cells, and every possible variable, which is why these cancer centers are making miracles, because they're treating the type of cancer. And at some point, your child is going to get diagnosed with autism, and they're going to say, okay, your child has type 32A autism.
That's right.
And here's the good news. We know what works for this is this diet, this medication, this much therapy, and this is how you're going to get it done, and this is what we predict your outcome will be if you do these, and people will know what to do.
That's right. And it is super exciting, and I get so excited about these things that I start talking about them probably like the minute I dream of it, I'm like, oh, this is going to happen, this is what we need. And eventually it happens, and it's, I guess, 2008, what are we, 15 now?
Yeah.
And it's taken 7 years for us to add this feature on, but in the meantime, I thought we'd be doing this before we do genetic, and fortunately we're already collecting genetic. So to have all of this together, I think, is fabulous. A few years ago, Shannon, like maybe 4 years ago or something, we were going to just join our database to the National Institutes of Health NIH database, which shares data from AGRI and other genetic databases. But then it turned out that it's just as easy for us with new technology now to collect genetic data ourselves on our kids. And I just think that, it'll probably take us another few years, but with this type of thing, we're going to be able to collect a lot of interesting data on our kids and let our parents know. I mean, as we develop this stuff, I think it's important that our parents are part of the process and see and know, hey, right away, as soon as we find out what's going on with the metabolic profiles, we will let our parents know.
Love it. It's the future.
I'm very excited.
When I say visionary, this is what I'm talking about. It's exciting. All right, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back with some more questions that you guys have written in for Dr. Grandpichet. Stick with us. There's been another new study about optimal outcomes, and I wanted to know, what are your thoughts on recovery? Do you think it's possible? Do you believe in recovery from autism?
On recovery, you learn how to adapt. I mean, I've had a lot of experimental brain scans done, and they have found things that are definitely abnormal. I have an enlarged left ventricle that's definitely abnormal. That's not going to go away. That scan was done less than 5 years ago. But you work with someone and they adapt. You're not going to make me an algebra specialist. That's just not going to happen. But things like getting better at public speaking, that is something that I gradually learned. What I'm seeing today, especially with some of the kids on the mild end of the spectrum, I'm seeing teenagers that are much milder than me that haven't learned things like how to go up to the counter at McDonald's and order food all by themselves, how to go on the bus, how to shop, how to go in the store and shop, how to do a checkbook, basic things like that. Because what drives me crazy is when I go back to the cattle world and I see a guy in the maintenance shop that's running the whole maintenance shop at a big plant, and he's as Asperger's as he can be, and he's running the whole maintenance shop. And then I see Junior that's addicted to video games, and you can't get his duff off his chair and get him doing things. Now, when I was in high school, I did a lot of thinking about this. I got kicked out of a large girls' school for throwing a book, and I went to a special boarding school up on a farm, and I was allowed to work with the farm animals. And they let me goof off and not study. But I got to thinking, there's one thing they did not let me do. I goofed off and I didn't study, but I had to physically go to class. When I didn't want to go to the Friday night movie, they made me the projectionist. One thing they were not going to let me do is sit in my room, become a recluse in my room. They were not going to allow that.
I want to know why you threw the book. Why did you throw it?
Oh, I threw a book at a girl because she called me a retard.
Oh, good reason.
Oh, no,
to throw
she
it at.
teased me. And I had some problems getting in fights when kids teased me. But it was always brought about by someone picking on me. And the principal had me kicked out of school, out of a large girls' school for doing that.
And what'd your mom say?
Well, she was not very happy about the whole thing because when the principal called, I answered the phone and he said I was incorrigible and I was kicked out of school. Mother was really angry that he just said that right directly to me, which was definitely not very appropriate.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet is here with us, and she is answering your questions in real time. I want to go to a question about the BIP builder.
Yes, of course.
And skills. Somebody wrote in and said, Dr. Doreen, I'm using the BIP builder. The challenging behavior is periods of inattention, lack of focus in the classroom. What would be an appropriate replacement behavior? I have prompting strategies for antecedent and extinction, but I don't know what for a replacement behavior.
Okay, so I think it just simplifies things a little bit when we take it is a challenging behavior, inattention, but let's not look at it in the format of a BIP yet, and let's just assume that it is attention is not occurring because skill level is deficient. In other words, language, if you take this, and the example of it would be a child who can't speak, you would say lack of speaking is a challenging behavior. Okay, so let's not look at it that way.
Okay.
Let's look at it as just a skill that needs to be taught.
Okay.
Same thing as language. So with language, a child who can't communicate verbally, we teach them to. And with attention, a child who cannot attend appropriately, we teach them to. Let's not think about it in terms of a bad behavior. It's just a lack of a behavior. So in terms of a lack of attention or giving attention, what are the things that can cause a lack of attention or inability to focus? Now, there's many different types of attention. If it was my child, I would probably want to start with a basic assessment neuropsych test, which is parts of the NEPSI. The NEPSI is a very, very good neuropsych test. And it lists for you the types of attention that are, it's NEPSY, I believe, is how you, and it stands for some ridiculous neuro experiment. I don't know, it's a long
I love
one.
all the names they have. I know the WIPSI and the NEPSI
The
and the
WIPSI
MEPSI.
is an IQ test, right. But the NEPSI is a fabulous neuropsych. It's a very long test. Nobody ever really gives all of it. You just pick specific modules that you think are appropriate for what you want to test.
Okay.
But his neuropsych testing is very different from other psych testing, right? Psych testing is like, you know, even with intelligence tests, it's like sort of do this, or, you know, make this, move that, or do this kind of pattern or whatever. Neuropsych testing actually focuses on very specific functions within the brain.
Okay.
So for instance, one module will focus on the ability to attend to conflicting information.
Okay.
For like, just to give you an example of what that means, many people know the tests where you have, you might have had this in college or school, where you have like the numbers, but they're written in different colors, or words that are different in colors, and then you're asked to read the word, or you're asked to name the color, and it conflicts.
And your
So
brain goes, ah!
Yeah, is that green or is that the word green?
Right.
Yeah, so those types of tests would, for instance, measure one aspect of attention, okay? Other tests, for instance, would measure saliency. So is the individual attending to the key important stuff, or are they somewhere else, lost? Other subtests would measure duration of inattention, like how long does this person attend to other things? Are they able to gain focus again in a time that allows them to function okay? Other things are, is vocabulary causing this person to not attend? Let's say, for instance, they attend fine as long as the language is a basic level, but as soon as communication becomes an advanced level, they drop off because now they're not understanding.
Right.
So there's a million different aspects of what you measure about what's causing this.
Okay.
It's not just the person, especially with attention. There is no way that a human being would choose to not attend.
Right.
Okay, there's just no way. It's not a voluntary behavior.
Okay.
It has to do with skill level.
Okay.
So, or ability, capability. So first you do these tests, then you identify the specific area. So you'll find a lot of information, like a child will be able to attend as long as it's visually present. A child will be able to attend as long as there's no background noise. A child will be able to attend if they know the language, but the language, so whatever it is. And that then becomes your baseline. That's where the child is, and from there you teach. So for instance, if the child can't attend if there's background noise, you'll start with an environment that's very quiet, and you will gradually introduce background noise to the point where the child's learning rate remains the same regardless of what's around. Or if it's really distracted, then you will assist the child with things like calm moments or Bose headphones through which they can listen to things, or various other things. Now, if it's a different aspect of attention, like dual attention, attending to two things that are happening, set shifting, like you're watching television, somebody calls your name, you have to unfocus, focus on that and come back to this, that's dual, that's set shifting. Whatever it is, you then focus on teaching that area that's deficient.
But you need to get tested first,
You have to
where
figure
to
out
focus
why.
your energies.
Absolutely. I mean, a child could lack focus in the classroom because that's too boring.
Yeah.
Or because what's outside is distracting me because I can hear the leaves. I mean, you have to think outside the box because our kids are way more sensitive.
Yeah.
Or the language is too difficult for me to comprehend, so I'd rather look like I'm busy somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or I process too slow, and by the time the teacher is finished saying something, I can't process what was just said.
Yeah.
Or I'm embarrassed. I feel like I'm afraid. I have a high level of anxiety because I failed in the past and I might fail right now.
Right.
There's a million things that would lead to this.
Okay.
So we got to figure out what that is
And
first.
then we can shore it up. But here's my question for you, because as a mom of somebody who just started junior high school, and as somebody who used to teach in junior high school and high school settings, what can we do then to get, because we can be working on that at home, but if our kid is in the classroom today and we need to be able to talk to the teachers, and I would have trouble saying to a teacher, look, you need to snap it up and make it more interesting.
Not at all. Yeah, you can't. So the very basic thing you would do, I guess, if it was me, you would set up some system of videotaping the child, in the classroom.
Okay.
Now, whether this is getting permission from the teacher to just have, place a camera or a GoPro, where he's not even aware. I don't want the child aware. I just want to be able to analyze the situation. You need to see.
When he's dropping off.
Yes. What just happened when he dropped off? Was it the same subject?
Okay.
Was it a specific time of day? That's the kind of BIP thing you're talking. It's more of a CFA. It's more of a indirect functional assessment. When did it happen? Does it always happen at the same subject? Does it always happen at the same time of day? Is it before or after he eats something? Is blood sugar low, or did he just get too sleepy after eating? Is it one topic alone? Is it when there's another child sitting next to him that makes him nervous? What are the antecedent conditions that could be identified? Maybe. And that's on the external. That's the first level. The second level is what's going on in his brain,
Right.
which is the neuropsych level.
Right.
And then obviously there's another level which has to do really with, like, you know, did he sleep last night and all the environmental factors that might be affecting it. And you really have to get all of this together in order to understand what's going on. Now, a child who's, for instance, as analytic and high functioning as Jem, for instance, would be able to explain a lot of it to you. Like a person like that would be able to actually say some of the, I find it hard when X, Y, and Z, if you give them options.
Right.
But there is no dealing with attention all at once. Attention has to do with a lot of different things. You know, and once you've done all of that, it could be as simple as there's a biochemical imbalance which requires some form of medication, such as Adderall.
Okay.
I mean, there's no fixing that. You know, there are individuals who will do extremely well on medication and won't really respond very much to behavioral because it is just a biochemical imbalance. So you kind of need to be accepting of the fact that there's about 10 different things that could cause it.
Okay.
And you're in the beginning of trying to identify what it is.
So we don't, though, you know, go to the teachers and say, here's what we want you to do as an intervention for when he's not paying attention.
Not at all. You go to the teacher and you say, please give me some help in identifying the environmental things that are happening when it leads to inattention.
Okay.
Often you'll find teachers don't even have time to give you that because by the time they notice the child is not paying attention, the antecedent has already passed.
Right.
So it's important to either have an observation or have a video situation, or you might gain more information from the child. I don't know.
Okay.
But that is a circumstance where an observation is necessary. That's why we always do observations and behavior analysis. Because in real life, it's very hard to observe those key features, you know?
Okay. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back with more questions to close out the show because we're almost out of time. But stick with us, short break. Currently, in the United States, 1 in 88 children is affected by autism. 1 in 88 means something different when your child is the one. Recovery is possible. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, host of Autism Live, an online show about autism broadcast by CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm also the mother of a child with autism. My beautiful son, Jem. You know our old joke, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Chicken butt. So we're gonna take the chickens. But things weren't always so easy. I remember when Jem was first diagnosed with autism. I used to lay awake at night in bed and pray for someone or something that could help us to get our child back. My prayers were answered by Dr. Doreen Grandpichet and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. CARD treats autism and other related disorders using the principles of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. It is also recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the U.S. Surgeon General. About a year after we started treatment with CARD, we were able to see tremendous improvement, and we got our child back.
What grade are you in?
Second.
You are a smart cookie, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like school?
Yeah.
Do you have any good friends?
Yeah, Oscar.
Oscar is your best friend?
Yeah.
And my child is just one of thousands to benefit from CARD ABA therapy. Across the nation and around the world, children are making amazing progress and being given the keys to unlock their full potential.
Recovery from autism is absolutely a possibility. We've been recovering children for over 20 years. It's just a matter of identifying the child's medical needs, understanding the child's sensory issues, and then teaching the child all of the skills they need in order to function normally.
We know there's hope for autism. Autism is treatable and recovery from autism is possible.
Torin. There's the two buddies.
I have a 7-year-old son who was diagnosed when he was 22 months old with PDD-NOS. That diagnosis was changed when he was 3 to a full autism diagnosis. There was a long period of time where he didn't sleep at all and all night long would bang his head and whoop. It was because he was in pain but couldn't tell us.
We're gonna back up, showing the speed and grace of this guy.
CARD was one of the only programs that said it doesn't really have to be this way forever. Your child will make progress. We can show you. Just give us time. We started services with CARD when my son was 3.5. Shortly thereafter, my daughter was also diagnosed and started her immediately with services. And I'm pleased to say that I think she's doing exceptionally well and will probably lose her diagnosis in the next 2 years. We started with 3 therapists with my son, and he had actually a 46-hour program. And thankfully, through some of the behavioral training that CARD helped us with, he is back in school.
1 + 9 = woohoo!
He's sleeping at night. CARD has a very robust program. Things that we're working on right now that we could never work on before is learning to play the piano, learning to ride his bike. It just has given us back our quality of life. They focus on our family. What do we need to do to make it more functional? So we're very, very happy with the services, and we feel like we owe everything to CARD because they kind of gave us back our life. I have nothing but love for CARD, for sure.
Interactive learning games for kids 2 and up, designed by experts in autism. Camp Discovery will open your early learner to a world of new skills, shapes, numbers, colors, locations, emotions, and more. Let's get started.
Please choose a level.
Objects. First, Camp Discovery's Intelligent Preference Assessment determines your child's preferred reward for choosing correctly. Okay, got it. Let's play. Camp Discovery creates a motivating learning environment for your child by minimizing incorrect responses and maximizing successful ones.
Find the shoes.
Respond correctly and your child is rewarded with their favorite animations.
You did it.
Respond incorrectly and our unique prompting system guides your child to the correct answer by making it the largest choice.
That's not it. Try again. Way to go.
Continue to answer correctly and the size gradually reduces until the child makes the correct choice independently.
You win.
Success! Rewards motivate learning. Complete a round and your child is rewarded with a fun mini-game. Track your child's progress with easy-to-read graphs. Multiple settings options allow you to customize Camp Discovery to your child's unique needs. All this in one single app, the Camp Discovery app, available for free on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon Store.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is here with us. She is an amazing expert in the field of autism and a visionary in the field of autism. She's answering questions in real time. We had a question that came in and said, why do kids with autism love Minecraft? Is it okay to let them play? When do we need to worry that it is an obsession? And this is the case with a lot of our kids, right?
It's a really good question, yeah. And it's funny because this morning I was making an announcement about Minecraft, and you know, so let's answer the obsession portion first, and then we'll talk about Minecraft. In general, with anything, whether it's Minecraft or any other type of computer game, or watching TV, or watching the same film, like the same section of a program over and over, or anything, we define it as being obsessive in nature when stopping it results in extreme distress. So if your child, typical behavior would be when you shut it off or you say time is up, or you would want to give the child some transition time and say you have 5 more minutes. This is what you would do with any child, right. And we're going to shut it off. And then when you go to shut it off, the child will object. They'll say, oh no, can I please have 5 more minutes? That's kind of bargaining behavior, which is very important. Our kids generally don't know how to bargain to begin with. Once they learn, they become really good at it. But until that point, they might throw a tantrum. So that's okay. That's still within typical as long as they get over the tantrum fast and move on.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a child who throws a tantrum for 45 minutes, then that shows you that the value of that thing they were doing is so ridiculously high that, yes, you could classify it as something obsessive in nature. So that's not good.
Right.
Now, so you really, the way to determine how much is enough is what would you do if your child didn't have autism?
Yeah.
Okay, so what would be a typical amount that you would allow? People are different.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind if my son has done his homework and he's hung out with us and whatever it is. I have no problem letting him spend 1 or 2 hours online doing these various things with his friends, because also inevitably right after that I know he will come and spend time with me, because that's fun as well.
Right.
So as long as you're sure that there's other social activities that you're comfortable with, then I think it's okay. What were you going to say about that?
Oh, I was just going to say, and I think neurotypical parents don't know the answer to that question, how long is enough? I think that all parents nowadays, because remember, we didn't have this before.
Yeah,
everybody's sort of figuring it out together, and I think you're right that it's individual, and what you decide for your family doesn't necessarily have to be written in stone. If you see that it's too much or not enough, you could always change your mind. I just think a lot of us want
We're
the
all
answer.
Confused. And you're right. And it's a great question, because this is a parent that thinks about not letting their child with autism do something obsessive, which is very smart and very good. But why do we not want our kids doing these things, whether it's a child with autism or a typically developing child? It's mainly because I would say all parents would agree that that time could be used better. That's how we all feel, right? That time is going to limit you, and you should be socializing. That time you should be doing something better. But the truth of the matter is, because it's not our generation, this generation communicates completely differently. Part of that is social interaction, and this is a very, very important thing. This is how children and teens now interact. This is part of their social activity. In fact, when you go on these Minecraft, really good example, and you go in these servers where you're playing with other people and so on, it's quite an interesting set of social behavior. I mean, I see this with my son, and he's older and he's on a different thing called Clash of Clans, but he used to love Minecraft. And the whole thing with, I think Jem likes Minecraft.
Please.
Exactly.
We've had 2 Minecraft birthday parties.
So there you go. Why do they love Minecraft? I think it's just being able to construct and produce things out of imagination, and also having all the tools to produce. It's very well made. It's actually a really awesome technology. And it's perfectly fine. I wouldn't necessarily think it's fine if the child spends 6 hours alone on Minecraft. That is not okay for any child, because they'll go blind from it and get headaches and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, spending an hour a day or even 2 hours a day split up on Minecraft, and especially if it's with social, so when it's on a server with other people, then it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's social activity, and it's finding people who are similar. Yeah. Now, excuse me, at CARD, we just are piloting a private server for our kids so that they can actually interact with each other in a safe environment and not have any strangers on there.
Absolutely, which is very good. And I will say this, that, you know, for my son, everybody needs to have their thing. We've talked about this before on the show. You have to have your thing that you're good at. That's your status in your group of friends.
Absolutely.
And it's your currency,
yes,
right?
Very good point.
And for my son, he has a certain ability with these games, and it wasn't enough for him to just play the game. He wanted to learn, and he went to Minecraft camp this summer to learn how to make his own world and his own challenges.
That's what Sonny did too.
And that's his friends. Like, I have teenage boys calling me going, hey, can I talk to Jem? And I hear him get on the phone, and he's like, okay, so you gotta, you know, you put an / or whatever, and that's how you can make the sign pop up. It's his currency now that he's the guy who knows how to do that.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it, Shannon? And I think it's almost like, I don't know, you know, it's their first, I guess, introduction to computer programming.
Yes.
And it's fascinating. Yeah. I remember the exact thing that you just described was happening with Sonny when he was in Minecraft, and it was when he was Jem's age. Now he's 16, but back then he used to play it, and I completely remember, and he even had it on his phone. I remember we went to Canada to hang out with Greg's family, and all the boys in the family who were like maybe younger, like 6, 7, and so on, were just like in awe of him,
right?
Because he could do this. And
it's
that
currency.
It's absolutely,
It's
and
currency.
I see nothing wrong with it. I think it's fabulous for our kids, and I think it is one of the strengths of our kids, and we should encourage it.
Yeah. So we've actually reached out to the creator of Minecraft to see if he would be on the show. We've
nice.
not had a response, but we'll keep trying on that because it is something that our kids are really drawn to. But by the way, a lot of neurotypical kids are a little bit crazy about it too, and even adults.
Absolutely.
So
oh my gosh, yes.
it's a very exciting thing, and we're thrilled and excited that for card kids there is a place that will be monitored,
private server, so that we have all our own kids playing there. Yes.
It's really thrilling. Mm-hmm. Well, we're out of time, unfortunately,
yes.
but it's been a really fun hour, and we thank you for all of your vision and all of your knowledge and all of your time and your willingness to help all of us is just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
So we're going to take a break. We're going to go now to the A word. And speaking of which, very soon be watching because we are about to announce the date for when we will air the final episode of the current A Word. We're hoping to begin filming with another child soon, but you will in the next couple of weeks be able to see the very last session that Jack Riley had for therapy. It's pretty eye-opening, you guys, and very inspirational. I've had a sneak peek at it. But take a look now at what Jack Riley is up to at this point in the series as his family deals with early intervention. When we come back, it'll be time for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson will join us, as will an amazing animator who creates interactive avatars. It's something that our kids are really excited about, so you'll want to see it. But first, here is the A Word.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack. Jack Riley. He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast.
Jessica's daddy. That's right. Who's this? Who's this? Bobby. And who's that? Daddy.
Who's that?
Over there? Who's that? Susan.
And I totally think he's just aware of a lot of things now. People's names.
How's the behaviors been going with the inflexibilities?
He's still a big control guy. He still wants it the way he wants it.
In sessions, he was very, he'd get very upset.
And he gets upset fast, like for reasons that didn't used to upset him. He gets upset fast, and then once he's upset, everything upsets him.
Were they really long?
But it was a good half hour, the whole tantrum, which is long for him. Mm-hmm. Really long. Yeah. And he would just get so upset.
Yeah, everyone tells us, it's not unexpected. He's 3 and blah, 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 but...
So we get it, we know it.
Still, it's harsh. Yeah, he's 3, but he's our 3-year-old.
Tell me a vehicle.
Good job. Tell me another vehicle.
Airplane is a vehicle. Yay. Okay, 2 more. Okay, tell me a food. Pancake is a food. Yeah. Tell me another food. Tell me another one.
Cereal bar is a food. Yeah.
But he said zebra. Hey, Jack Riley. Yes. Good job. Tell me an animal.
What's that?
Tell me one more time. What's an animal?
Rhinoceros.
Rhinoceros. Oh, okay, it's an animal. Tell me another animal. I know. Tell me another one. Oh, here are your shoes. What animal is that?
Froggy.
Froggy is a what? No, frog is a
arrow.
Good. So tell me another animal.
Rhinoceros is an animal.
Rhinoceros is an animal, and tell me another one.
More pancake.
No, look at me. No, no, look at me. There you go. Thank you. Pancakes are not animals, silly.
There's a clue from it.
More pancake.
Yeah, and I don't mind if he looks around to get clues, get hints. That's totally fine. Yes, I've been running sessions a little bit more like that lately, just because his behaviors have been really high. Just like if we're jumping on the bed or dancing, I'll stop for a minute and ask him like 3 or 4 questions, and then we'll just keep dancing or whatever we're doing. Let me probe through some stuff real quick.
What are you gonna be probing?
Actions. So I just want to see if he already knows it, then I won't even bother introducing it. Give me kissing. Oh, good. What are the kids doing?
He's kissing.
Oh, they're kissing. Can you show me kissing? Oh, good job. Give me cleaning. Okay, good. What's the girl doing?
She's cleaning.
She's cleaning. Good job.
Water.
Okay, one more. Can I have it? One more. Give me crying. What's the baby doing?
She's swimming.
What's she doing? What's the baby doing?
She's swimming.
She's wah. She's crying.
She's crying.
Oh, okay. Maybe we'll do crying.
She's kissing.
She's kissing. What about this one? What's she doing there?
She's cooking.
Oh, she's cooking. Okay. And what's this one? What's she doing?
She's crying.
Oh, okay. So basically, he knows all of them. All right, cool. All right. What are they doing?
She's studying.
They're what?
There's cooking.
Oh, they're cooking. Good job.
Lots of cooking. Lots of cooking.
Mom is cooking?
Lots of cooking.
Lots of cooking? Oh, okay, cool. All right, all done. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod. And you look
Hi.
so pretty today.
Thank you.
And I thought that of Amy today, too. I went in and I saw Amy. And
I think
was
you
like,
look so pretty.
Well,
Yeah, I feel gray and I feel like you're very bright. I do so many neutral.
You look styling. You're looking all very twiggy.
Oh, well, I got a haircut.
It's beautiful.
That's why I'm
and,
looking
and
twiggy.
Your hair looks, it's beautiful color, beautiful
Thank
cut.
you.
You look absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
It must be something in the air because Amy looked really beautiful today too. She looked at me and I said, "Amy, you look so beautiful
Amy
today."
always looks beautiful.
And Amy asked me if I was crazy, and I said, "I think not." I
Amy,
am
by
crazy,
the
but
way,
not about that.
is our manager of operations and development and programs at Act Today. So.
And Amy's a miracle. She's
Oh.
a small miracle because she's a tiny little thing, but she's a miracle.
She is a miracle.
She's the two of you accomplished.
There's actually
together.
a miracle about the way that she came to work with.
Yeah.
Amy worked with me on a fundraiser when Wyatt was in preschool for a little boy named Max, whose mother was diagnosed with inoperable cancer. And I had not really done any fundraising. I had been in television and, so as a producer. But I decided to put together a fundraiser for this boy and to raise some money for the family. And we called it Miracle for Max, and we did it at a hockey place, and we had a hockey team play, and my husband was at Fox Sports then, and he got a lot of the Fox Sports guys to come, and we raised $35,000. And interned for me because she was at Pepperdine and minoring in nonprofits. The first day I officially came to work at Act Today as the executive director, I only had her Pepperdine email. I thought, I've got to find Amy. I need to bring in Amy. And that day, she called me and said, I just graduated, I'm looking for a job.
How funny. Now, can I tell you the other side of this story?
Yes.
But I didn't know that you were doing that fundraiser for that child, Max.
Yes.
But I got information about that fundraiser, and I didn't know Nancy at this time. Okay, but here's the other thing about that, because we were going through our little autism thing, right? And I was in the woe is me thing.
Right.
And my very best friend, Natasha, who you have met, had been diagnosed with cancer. And she had 3 little boys at home, and she was dealing with cancer. And the two of us together, we were like, this sucks, our lives are terrible, da-da-da-da-da. And I called her and I said, I need to talk to you. And she said, what? And I said, I just got an email about a mom, and I'm going through my thing, and you know how I feel about that, and you're going through your thing, and I know how you feel about that. This is a mom who's going through it at the worst level in both things.
Yeah.
And we had this crying thing on the phone about how much gratitude we had to have, and that we both said, because here was this woman that, she's got the autism and her child wasn't doing as well as Jen was doing. And, Natasha's chemo was going well. And Natasha knew that she was going to survive it, but it was still hard to go through the chemo, right? And her cancer was inoperable, and they were looking at that she wasn't going to be around to be there for Max. And so both of us had this thing about, okay, we need to be get our grateful on.
Isn't that funny?
Isn't that amazing? And both of us talk about that all the time. And I've always remembered the child's name was Max. Because him and his story was pivotal for us, that we went, okay, we got to get our grateful on.
There you go. I guess you don't realize how you touch people.
And I had no idea that was you. All these years later, I didn't know that was you.
11 years later.
But of course that was you doing that fundraiser. Of course that was Nancy.
Well, I'm going to tell you an even better ending to that story. Well, there's not an ending. Christina, they moved to Colorado. Her cancer the tumor ended up shrinking to the point where they could operate. And she is very alive and healthy.
And don't we love that?
And the doctors had no way of explaining the way this tumor, which had all these blood vessels around it, and it was in her liver, how it shrunk. We had also started a prayer chain circle and had thousands of people praying for her. So there you go.
There you go. Because it looked bleak. I remember that.
It looked very bleak.
Well, I can't wait to tell Natasha. I knew that she had gotten better, but I didn't know what had happened to her in the last couple of years.
And I actually need to reach out to her and see how they're doing, how the family's doing, and how Max is doing.
Wonderful.
He would be 14 now, 13
Isn't that amazing?
Or 14. Yeah.
Truly amazing. And I had no idea that that was a real pivotal moment for me and for her, and I had no idea that you were connected to it.
Amazing.
But if somebody asked me, I could have figured it out.
Well, that's how I started fundraising, and I love doing it so much that when I heard about Act Today being formed, I wrote Doreen and said, I'd like to do a fundraiser for you, and that was the first Denim and Diamonds.
Yes. Well, I was saying nice things about you behind your back last night.
Thank you. I always say nice things about you. Okay, we're having a love fest, and we're both tearing up.
And none of that was on the schedule. None of that discussion.
None of that was on the schedule.
Kelby's wiping his eyes. I see him. He's like, and throwing his hands up. No, they're not following the schedule.
Okay.
We have news. He's like, whatever.
In the news,
do whatever you want.
I wanted to talk about, you had talked about this yesterday, but you and I were on the phone yesterday, and I had not, somehow, I'm not on a lot of the autism blogs. I get stuff on Facebook, but apparently there's quite a bit of frenzy going on about
the dog pile. Are we talking about the
dog pile? Which you and I ended our conversation last night saying, I think we need to do it. It's called Autism Speaks. Needs to do a lot more listening. I think we all need to do a lot less complaining.
And that's pretty much what I had said yesterday on the show too. That if Autism Speaks isn't your thing, okay, then start your own thing.
Yeah,
start your own thing.
Help Act Today,
right? Or start your own charity.
Right.
I mean, you said I want to do something. I want to do a fundraiser.
And help this child, and we raised $35,000.
And that is open to you, and
it's
you can
totally
do that.
open. Fundraising is open to everybody.
Right. And if you don't like what they're doing,
then
we welcome you. We beg you to create something on your own, because it will add
and make the world world a better
discussion.
place.
And when people come along, and when you're busting, you know what, to make something happen, and people come along and tell you that you're doing it wrong, you'll go, okay, right? Because you're doing something.
You're doing something.
And you have the luxury
and you've
of knowing
made
you're doing
autism
something.
a household word, I might add, in defense of Autism Speaks, and you are giving grants for programs like Autismo-y-Familia, which we educate Latino families across California, thanks to Autism Speaks giving Act Today a grant, and you sponsor the Act Today for Military Families run for Act Today. So if you can't help, shut up. That's what I have to say.
We had a little bit of a laugh in our house last night because, I said yesterday that I have not read the book Neurotribes, and of course this op-ed piece was written by the same author of Neurotypes.
Yeah, and he did a TED Talk.
As I mentioned yesterday, this is an individual who does not identify himself as being on the spectrum or being the parent of an individual who's on the spectrum, but who felt that he had the authority to write a book about autism and then say of an autism charity that that he knows how they should be doing things.
And also to say there's no epidemic, by the way.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of things that he has to say.
Yeah.
But I just think that that's an amazing amount of chutzpah to say, I know, the one statement that he made about, well, this is like the NAACP being run by a group of white men. And I'm like, and this is from the guy who wrote the book about autism that doesn't have autism and doesn't have a child with autism. So I just wanted, and I have nothing against Steve Silverberg, but I just want to say to him, I'd like to donate my ovaries to you so that you can study them for the next 20 years and then write a book about what it's like to have menopause. And tell us how we're doing it wrong, because amazing how people think that they have the authority to speak about something.
Yeah, and he also goes, the thing that I think I found most offensive was that he says that the co-founders, and there's attitude in this sentence, Bob Wright and his wife Suzanne have repeatedly referred to children on the spectrum, including their grandson Christian, as missing, as though they've been kidnapped.
And this from a guy who has no knowledge of what it feels like.
I would like to say,
yeah,
never mind.
Right. This man has been writing about autism for 20 years, and I think that he probably feels like he gets it.
He probably feels that, but I'd like to have a conversation with him.
Right.
And I'd like to say, missing is exactly like what we feel sometimes.
Right. And where do you get the chutzpah to say what you feel is not correct?
Exactly.
Or inappropriate, or
he hasn't met Christian.
Where do you get that?
How does he have the right to judge the rights for saying their grandson went missing? And when they are the only ones that know the pain of what their grandson is going through.
Right. It's just it's very interesting.
Yeah.
But I think he has the right to say whatever he wants to say. And so does everybody else. But it has been interesting, and I mentioned this yesterday, that every 2 years somebody will write something about Autism Speaks, and then the dog pile begins. And somebody else goes, and he says, as evidenced by the fact that there is a hashtag that says boycott Autism Speaks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure that there's a hashtag somewhere that says boycott Neurotribes too, but that doesn't mean that there's a justified movement against it and that it's not of any value. So
yeah, you can see how Shannon and I feel. You may have a different opinion, but I guess if you're not, I think our combined stance is, if you're not making the world a better place for those with autism, stop criticizing those who are trying to make a difference, whether you agree with their methods or not.
Step it up.
Okay, and let's talk about another loudmouth.
Woo! The temperature just went up in the room.
Donald Trump.
Let's talk about Donald Trump.
Whether you like him, hate him, I found this to be so interesting. Maybe you find him to be a misogynist. Maybe you find him to be crass and rude. Maybe you think the greater part of his policy is still undefined and largely backed by inexperience. But that doesn't change one component about the Trumpmeister. He's making a lot of people really nervous, and that includes Big Pharma. Because one of the issues that Donald Trump has been blatantly opinionated about is that he believes that vaccines are not completely safe, and he thinks that just the common sense evidence supports that you can't, he said this, quote, You can't pump that much fluid into a little baby's body, and I think it's having an effect. Claiming he knew at least 2 people where their child is totally healthy, they get pumped with this huge pile of liquid and many, many different vaccines, and the child turns out to be autistic after it. And now experts are taking notice. People are slamming Donald Trump for this, saying that the science is clear, and people like Donald Trump who spread misinformation on vaccines could cause more parents to opt out of vaccinating children, which puts their children at risk and puts our herd immunity at risk. So whether you like his stance or not, he could prove to be an ally on the war on mandatory vaccines. And even further, this article, The Edgy Truth, says, offer a refreshing perspective from such a powerful seat, because the man is not beholden to Big Pharma, as he is not beholden to, as we've seen, many special interest groups, and as most of American politics is. I think it's worth noting that Richard Pan, who sponsored the mandatory vaccines, it received the largest amount of contributions from Big Pharma of any lawmaker
in the state of California.
In the state of California.
Yes, that's
so
true.
We do know that people that receive money from special interests protect those special interests. That is a fact. Now, if you vote, this is an interesting question. Do you vote for the greater good, or do you vote for your own self-interest?
Oh, and I think it has been different at different times for different things. And I will say that as I've grown older, my opinions about those things have changed. And certainly, as an autism parent, my view of what's most important to me and what I'm voting for has changed.
Yes.
Because I think, I used to think that minds couldn't be changed.
Right.
And my mind gets changed from time to time.
Yeah.
It does. It's funny, isn't it? The older we get, there's less black and white and a lot more gray.
Well, I think when we're younger, I think we do tend to vote what we think is the greater good, perhaps.
Yes.
And now, as I'm older and realizing some of these very critical problems in the world that have affected my family and my life, things like autism and cancer, I feel like until we elect people that take a stand on issues, we will not see a change. Yeah. And obviously what we're seeing now happening, and this is, I don't want to go off into politics, but Trump about vaccines and other issues, and Ben Carson and Bernie Sanders, there's a tremendous frustration about the special interest groups controlling our politics. And until that stops, we're not going to see change.
Well, it's very interesting. As I was watching some of the news programs that are on Sunday morning, Face the Nation and Meet the Press and all those things, it's very interesting to watch everybody squirming the past couple of weeks, because I think for a long time, everybody felt like there was a certain amount of control that the political parties had over what was happening. Yes. And you see that on both sides right now, everybody's squirming, going, we don't really have a handle on this. With all the social media that's out there and grassroots kinds of things, they're having a hard time keeping, even the Republican Party has said, we did not expect Trump to last this long.
I know.
That he has defied. We thought it was going to be this thing that would fizzle out, and that especially they've pumped, he has said enough things that you would think, and they have said that, he's alienated this group of people and alienated this group of people, and yet he's still plugging along.
And I think it's because of things like this. I think it's because of that he's not beholden, that he is, he has his beliefs, and he doesn't care that Merck is angry.
Right. And everybody is 100% clear that he's not a talking head, that what's coming out of his mouth is coming out of his mouth.
Right.
Right? And I think sometimes we see somebody talking and it's like, well, but what do you really think?
Yeah.
We don't really have to ask Trump that.
No, we don't. But I'd love to know what you all think at home, whether, regardless of a stance, you would vote for somebody because you feel like perhaps you might feel like he's more protective of your children, that he isn't beholden to special interests, regardless of whether he might be, divisive on another issue.
Right.
Whether you would vote for somebody like this because he represents your view on what's going on.
Well, here's what I really want to know from our viewers is that you and I talked about this earlier in the year. As we get closer to the Iowa caucuses, there's a moment in time, I know this from having lived in Iowa at a time when they were ramping up to the caucuses, there's a moment in time, like right now people have been at the Iowa State Fair and they will give an interview, these candidates, to anyone, right? And you can ask them anything and you can stand there and be in front of them and touch them because they're in their grassroots moment. So we had talked about inviting all, and I didn't realize it was going to be such a big field, but all of the candidates at different times to have a couple of minutes here to answer questions from Nancy and I. Now, I'm curious as to whether our viewers would be interested in that or the whole thing makes you want to puke because you're over it already. So
but I think they haven't talked about autism specifically.
No, they haven't.
Which is kind of
You
shocking,
know we would ask
considering
questions about that.
Considering the rates.
Absolutely, they need to get an opinion about it.
They have not.
I'm curious as to whether you guys would like that, whether that would be interesting to you or not. So write and let us know. Do you want to hear from them about where their stances are, or are you over it? Okay, I think we should save this story for the end, if that's okay, because we're like terribly out of time, and Kelby's going to wrangle both of us and put us somewhere dangerous.
About Georgia's special ed programs?
Yes,
okay.
And I want to talk about this.
I know, it's very important.
I want to talk about what they're doing in Georgia, because I don't think Georgia's the only place, but
we got a really
very
cool
special guest that we have to get to, and he's been waiting for us. So we're going to take a break. I don't have my sheet in front of me, but Gary Jesh, but he's called Chops. That's what everybody calls him. He's an animator, and he makes interactive avatars.
Yeah, he's
so cool.
I mean, he's really a visionary. He has all of these uses for that, and now he is supporting families of children with autism. So we're going to talk to Gary Jesh when we get back.
Stick with us.
Say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hey, welcome back to Autism Live. We heard you. Everybody wants
macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, but we're gonna make it allergy free. But here's what's the crazy part of this macaroni and cheese. It's actually healthy.
And it tastes good.
Yeah, it tastes really good.
That's the most important part.
So we're going to start. We got our water boiling. There's so many variations on the pasta. We're using today a corn pasta. We can verify with the manufacturer that we have a GMO-free product. So let's go ahead and put that in there.
Ooh,
and if you don't mind, stir that up for me, my friend.
Now it's sticking a little bit to the bottom.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
We maybe add a little more high heat oil and spread that around again. One thing you gotta know about gluten-free pasta, if you overcook this, it becomes mush. Let's move this guy over to the other burner so you can see what I'm doing. And now we're gonna start with the old macaroni and cheese sauce. What's great is there's a lot of choices for, different soups. And the way that I look at soups, and again, please follow the recipe on your screen right now. I don't like to measure very often. But what I like to use is a creamy butternut squash soup. So this soup is great because it adds a lot of flavor to the dish, but also gives people another serving of vegetables. With kids, we don't want to over season. Maybe with the adults, we can season some for the kids first, pull it out, serve them, and then add a little more, garlic powder or onion powder or other types of things into your dish. So the next most important thing on this recipe is we're going to add in a thickener and the faux cheese. Now some people like their sauce really thick, so you just add in more cornstarch or more arrowroot, so that's not a big deal. How's that doing? You think it's ready?
I think it's done.
Okay, so why don't we switch? I'll take that, you do that.
Okay.
And I'm going to strain this bad boy here. Here, let me turn that off.
Okay.
Or we're going to cause trouble again.
Trouble in Lisa's kitchen.
No,
that's another show.
Don't, yeah, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get this all strained. It's a good consistency. So I'm going to check to make sure our pasta is cooked. So really, you just want to make sure, just like any pasta, it's a little bit squeezy, a little bit. Nice. Dude, good job.
Yay.
We're good.
Looks yummy.
So even though the cheese is not totally melted, it's okay, don't panic. What's important is that you're gonna love this recipe once you eat it. What I enjoy most about this recipe is that it smells good, but this stuff is amazing. So If you don't mind, I'm going to serve you some up, and you can maybe blow a little bit on it so you don't burn your mouth. Sorry, I'm once a mom, always a mom.
Just like we tell our kids.
I know, right?
But I can't wait. I'm excited.
So I'm going to give a shot of this too, but
oh my gosh, that is so good.
This is the ultimate comfort food. So
oh, it's so
isn't
good.
it good?
And I'm not just saying that. It is really good. It literally tastes like something our kids would really like, and that sweetness is really, really, really good.
So the bonus for us is that when we're serving this to our kids, they're actually getting a full serving of vegetables in this. So instead of just eating a bunch of carbs and worthless calories, you're actually getting some good stuff in this. And we'll be back next time. I hope you join us again here on Autism Live. We're really loving the feedback, and if you have additional feedback, here's how you get it to us. You can send it to us via email at autismlive@gmail.com. On Facebook, facebook.com/autismlive. And also there's thousands of recipes waiting for you to discover them with pictures and different things on the TACA website. So you can hit TACA on the web, tacanow.org, and we'll be back. Hopefully we'll get to do this again.
I had so much fun.
Maybe we'll have a little wine, but you got to join us next time. We'll look forward to seeing you then.
Bye guys, we're gonna keep eating.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. The show is not just Shannon and me talking about Donald Trump and Steve Silberman. We promise you a great guest, and we have him, Gary Jesch. Gary, do I say the name correctly?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Fantastic. Gary Jesch is an animator and an entrepreneur, and he is taking his love for animation, and now his newest venture is called Invirtua, and Gary is going to be helping families and parents of those with ASD. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. This is great.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background and what made you decide to start looking at the autism field?
Well, it's a story that actually started about 20-some years ago when I was at a virtual reality conference, and I got this bug idea to work with characters that can interact with people in real time. And that technology is called performance animation. And it's a different type of animation than you'd normally see going to the movies or whatever. It actually happens in real time right in front of you. And the aspect that I use and work with is cartoon characters. So my business is bringing cartoon characters to life in real time and having them giving them the ability to talk back and forth just like you and I are right now.
Right. Now I know you've done this with industry leaders, and you've done webcasts and online meetings for heads of companies. What made you look at autism?
Well, it was about maybe 15 years ago or so that I was developing the technology, and I came across Dr. Rosalind Picard out of MIT's Media Lab.
She's been on our show.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, she's a famous scientist in autism, and I was reading up about her work, and it was saying about how, it was facial expressions and body language that would make a difference to helping kids on the spectrum. And I thought, well, this is exactly what I'm working with. I'm creating facial expressions for my avatars and designing body language. And I thought, one of these days I'm going to get a chance to get this technology where it would be usable for the kids with any number of developmental disabilities and maybe even learning in schools. And so that was when the seed was actually planted. It was about a year and a half ago now that I got my hands on my software source code from the original developers. And so once I got that, it was just a matter of time before I dove in to developing this and working on it until we could present it to the autism community.
It's pretty exciting, and we've been waiting patiently because there is a fish floating in the background behind you. And
yeah, that's Morphe there.
What is her name?
Morphe.
Morphe. Is it a boy or a girl?
Well, actually, got the capabilities of being either one, so
Okay.
you pick.
All right. Well, I was seeing a
Let's
girl.
say a guy because it's my voice.
Okay.
Okay, we'll make it a guy. We'll
Okay.
make Morphe a guy for today.
So,
All
and
right.
my understanding is that we can have a conversation with Morphe right now.
Yeah, you can actually. And so what I'm going to do here is I brought along a little bit more technology to be able to switch right to Morphe here in a second.
Okay.
Maybe I could show you real quickly how I'm controlling Morphe.
I want to
before
see
I dive
that.
in.
Yes.
Would that be okay?
Yes.
Yeah, please tell us.
Please.
All right. So I'm just going to slip on this other headset, and it's got a microphone on it. And the way that this works is that it picks up my voice, and my voice actually drives Morphe's lips.
Wow.
Yeah. So actually, as I talk, you can kind of see in the background
Oh my
the character here,
goodness.
Morphe's lips are moving also.
Very cool. Okay. Hi,
So that
Morphe.
makes it automatic.
Great.
And then this device is called a digital tablet with a stylus. And actually, as I move the pen around on the stylus, Morphe's going to move on the screen.
Oh, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Isn't that neat? And then facial expressions. The top row here are a set of sliders, actually. And so I'll give you a closer look, but it's actually when I'm up in these sliders is when I'm controlling Morphe's facial expressions. And then the other control is very simple. It's right here on my left hand, and that is a joystick that actually moves Morphe's eyes around. Looks like it got a little bit disconnected here, but we'll be able to show you that in another example in a second.
Okay.
So let's go to Morphe. What do you say?
Let's do
Okay.
it.
Let's go. And we're going to ask Morphe some questions. Hi, Morphe. How are
Okay,
you?
hi everybody. It's great to be here with you today. This is super fantastic. Wow, being here with you and Shannon. This is awesome. Woo-hoo.
Morphe, you are absolutely gorgeous. I know you're a guy, but you're absolutely gorgeous. I should have said
Oh, you're
handsome.
too kind.
Are you happy today, Morphe?
Oh yeah, I'm so happy. I could like flip. Woohoo! Oh yeah. Wow. That's how happy I am. How about you? You happy too?
I would like to do a flip like that too, Morphe, but I don't think it's happening right now.
I'm happy
might
now.
hurt a little.
Yeah. So, Morphe, do you ever get scared?
Well, every now and then I get scared, like when I was looking over there and I saw this giant shark headed my way. That was kind of exciting, you know what I mean? But turned out that it's no problem. I can still be happy. It was a whale shark.
I am loving this. This, I've always loved puppets and worked with puppets when I
Yes.
was younger. This is like the ultimate in puppetry.
It's combining your techno geek passions with puppetry.
Nancy likes to make fun of me because I say I'm a techno geek, but I know nothing. I don't even know how to turn my smartphone on.
You don't know how to turn your smartphone on. Oh, there goes the whale shark.
Morphe, are you excited about working with kids with autism?
Well, I was really surprised, you know what I'm saying, that there was so much involved with autism because, people that really don't have children on the spectrum kind of underestimate what those parents and therapists have to go through, I think.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we know about kids with autism, Morphe, is that eye contact with a human being is not easy for them, but it's much easier with an animated character. So I'm going to guess that they could start working on eye contact with you and see more progress and then have that change to the therapist.
Yeah, there's all sorts of cool aspects to it, really. The non-intimidating factor of a cartoon is one thing. And then also, what's really neat is the anxiety levels of the child seem to drop as they start to interact with the character. And when it comes to autism, that could be a big deal,
Sure
that
can.
the character's able to kind of welcome them into just a little world of his own.
I think my son would
world.
love you, Morphe, and he has a lot of anxiety, but I think he would absolutely love you. And I might add, you have beautiful eyes.
You really
Oh,
do.
you're so kind.
I love it when your eyes get nice and wide like that. It's hysterical. So Morphe, how can parents who want or practitioners who are working with kids on the autism spectrum and want the child to be able to play with you, how can they make an arrangement to do that?
Well, maybe I could throw that one back over to Gary. How
Let's
you
do
think?
that. Let's throw that back to the man who created you. Your father.
I want to play with this toy.
He's so cute.
That's amazing.
Thank you so much. Here, I'm going to disconnect Morphe here
Okay,
for a
Gary,
second. But,
give you a minute there. And then we want to hear how you're going to bring this technology to our kids and to our families, where you've got your voices in front of a lot of families right now watching. Gary, how are we going to be able to utilize this?
Well, one of our big goals was actually to be able to get it into the hands of people in the autism community. And so we've started out with our initial offer, which I introduced in July at the Autism Society's annual meeting in Denver. And what we're introducing is a complete technology package that includes the computer, the control devices that I've been using here, the software license, and includes characters, all on a complete system that's pretty much plug in and play. And that's this little computer right here. It's even about half the size of an Xbox, actually, and it's a Dell Alpha computer. And the reason that we provide the computer and not just send out software is because there's certain system requirements that are involved with our technology, our software. And also that we want to make sure that everything is up and running before our customer, tackles it, basically starts to use it. So that's what we're doing. On the Alpha here, the price tag is about $2,800.
Okay.
And so that's, we've learned in feedback from folks in the community, particularly parents, that that's not the price that they expect or wish to pay to get involved with this. But right now, we're offering that, and we think that we're really going to get takers in form of autism treatment centers and therapists who can see the value of having the technology right away, because it's really going to be about a year. It's going to take us about a year for us to be able to develop the next version of this, which is actually our approach is going to be to try to get it onto Microsoft's Xbox and sell it through the Microsoft Store as an Xbox app.
That's a great idea.
Now, Gary, how can those interested in this contact you? Where do they find you?
Well, our website is called animationforautism.com, and they can also look up Invirtua, INVIRTUA, on the web and find us that way. And then my other company called chops.com, Chops Live Animation, we have links there also. So we hope that we're pretty visible there. You can also stick us up on Facebook or Twitter, social media, like you said, LinkedIn, especially therapists that are interested in being early adopters of this technology. Those are the ones that we encourage to contact.
We're losing a little bit of the sound. Gary, I don't know whether your mic
I think
is
he's back.
Okay, we
there?
got you. Say something else, Gary.
Okay, so
now we've got you back.
Gotcha.
Good.
Yeah, so LinkedIn, as you know, is a great spot for therapists to gather, and we're always discussing current issues about autism there.
Right. That's how I discovered you. And I can imagine that this could be a great tool with behavior therapy, with speech therapy. Are you finding that therapists and practitioners are using it in those ways?
Yes, and one of the exciting things is we're actually working with a SLP, that's a certified speech language pathologist, right here in our community, and we've provided a system to her, and we've had a great relationship with her and her clients for about a year now, and we're really seeing some interesting results and positive results from that. We've developed a suggested method of using the avatar technology in these sessions to pretty much not to take over a therapy or reinvent an intervention per se, but actually to intersect with existing established interventions or emerging interventions that have evidence-based proof behind their methods and techniques, right?
Yeah, I can see this working very well with ABA, that it would be great for generalization and you could try some different things, but it's going to be very reinforcing for the kids, and it's going to up the compliance, which means you're going to get to things faster than you would, especially with the little ones.
Yeah.
It's very motivating too. What we're seeing is that a child will be out in front of the screen kind of in a two-room setup. At first, we start them out in front where they get to observe the positive behavior that the avatar wants to demonstrate, okay? And they could be sitting alongside their therapist while the therapist's assistant controls the avatar. And then the next part of the session would be that kind of that carrot on the stick for the child to say, okay, you know, you've done such a great job here that we'd like to invite you to come and control the avatar yourself. And that's a huge motivation.
Yeah.
And then the child gets to actually use the avatar to demonstrate that they have learned what was being taught in the session.
That's really cool.
Very
modeling
cool.
the avatar.
Gary, you've got
cool.
an amazing thing going on there.
You do.
Really think that it's amazing. And again, we want to tell people what the website is: Animation for Autism.
Right,
Animationforautism.com.
Or you can go to Invirtua
on Facebook.
on Facebook. Okay.
Right.
All right, Gary, we wish you the best of luck with this. I have a feeling we'll be talking to you again, and we'll be hearing a lot more from you. And thank you for, bringing Morphe to life for us here. And thank you for your interest in our community and in our children and in helping them. We need more entrepreneurs like you. Thank you so much, Gary.
Thank you, ladies. A big hat tip to you guys and also to some of the people that have helped me along the way and been major contributors like Tom Buggy, Dr. Tom Buggy, and Michael Leventhal, Stephen Shore, and a whole lot of great folks in the autism community that have stood alongside of me here. It's been awesome.
Awesome. Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gary.
Bye, Murphy.
Okay.
Morphe.
Morphe. Bye, Morphe.
Bye, everybody.
Morphe, it's more male sounding. Right. That's gotcha. Morphe did look pretty feminine with the hot pink.
I love the
androgynous.
It's almost like eyelashes.
Yeah.
He or she had
He or
some really
she.
nice coloring on there.
Androgynous.
But my favorite thing is when her eyes would pop. Very cool.
Yes.
Very cool. All right, we should take a break, and when we come back,
We'll talk about that story out of Georgia,
Yes.
which
very
could have
interesting.
national implication.
Yes, it could be very fascinating. Could be useful to you in your discussions with your school district.
Right.
So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with more Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Monica Holloway is a critically acclaimed author, speaker, and activist. She is also an autism mom. Her son Wills was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. Now, at the age of 15, Wills is a high school freshman, attending a mainstream school.
I'm in a brand new school. I'm in a great school that I love, and I'm really happy there. I made friends pretty quickly on the first day, and something interesting happened to me on the first day.
Tell me.
We were doing an art project with fabric markers, and there was a little label on it that said, "Squeeze for best results."
Okay.
And so I squeezed it and it exploded all over the people at my table.
Oh no!
And we were all covered in little blue dots.
I asked Wills how he describes autism to people.
I say that I have Asperger's syndrome, which is a slight form of autism. It doesn't make you any different. It really doesn't. It's just there, and it just kind of makes you who you are.
I asked Wills what he thought of the Sandy Hook shooter's actions being linked to autism.
Please, just don't be scared of autism. If somebody has autism, don't be scared of them. Chances are they're not violent. They're just like you or me.
Monica is a proud mom with good cause. I asked her to describe Wills in 5 words.
Generous, curious, funny, sensitive, loving.
We had a chance to talk about the Sandy Hook massacre and how Monica heard the news.
On Friday, when the shooting happened in Connecticut, I was in my car, and my husband Michael called to tell me what had happened. And I was in a state of shock, as I think we all were, but that many children. And I felt, I guess a mind can't take in that kind of information without feeling nauseous. I felt it go from here all the way down my body. I started calling everybody I knew to tell them I loved them, and I was thinking about them, and I just wanted to be with the people that I knew. I started hearing more and more information come on the news about this shooter having Asperger's or being autistic. And then I started hearing things about, well, does autism cause violence? And I was in a whole other level of shock. Never in a million years would I think that somebody might associate us and my son's face with the face of violence just because he has Asperger's. And I've seen bad days and good days, and that's what kills me is like there was not a day bad enough to ever make me think that he or any of his friends could ever be violent.
Welcome back.
Was that fun?
It was very fun. And you may be noticing that we're having a little bit of technical difficulty today. We have gremlins.
It's okay.
It is what it is, live show.
My tissue is rather sad, isn't it? You had me in tears earlier talking about Max.
Which reminds me that I needed to say to you that we had a viewer write in who said, Shannon, why do you make me cry all the time? You and Nancy are so incredible. Thank you so much for sharing an inspiration family. Hats off to you, beautiful autism moms who work so hard to make the world a better place.
Make me cry.
My head is still spinning from school starting. Barely have time to catch my favorite show. Soon you'll be getting tons of questions from me and warmest wishes.
Let's talk about that for just 1 minute, because I had road rage yesterday and I've never had it. And let me tell you what it was about. Okay, talk about school starting and your head spinning. I'm having a lot of anger issues because the therapy schedule changed, and whenever that happens, Shannon says she remembers, you go insane because it's all new people and they don't show up and they do, and there's substitutes and this and that and the other. So I've been having
It's always wonky. It's always
wonky. I've been having some anger issues about that. And then my son's aide didn't show up all last week. And last year,
this is the school aide, correct?
Last year we had this amazing aide, and of course I'm already getting my, I'm like getting angry about this situation without really kind of investigating it to the fullest, I have to say. And so yesterday I'm angry about both situations, the therapist not showing up and the aide not showing up, and I'm going to take no prisoners. I'm going to go kick some, with the school, with CARD, with everybody. So we're on our way to school, and we have this there's a situation where you drive into the school, and there's so many people dropping off their typical kids that it backs up to the stop sign. Then there is the special lane where you drop your special needs child off to meet their aide. So we don't sit in that lane. We go past, because if there's no traffic coming the other way, we can get into the special needs lane. Well, we're going by, and this mom turns and goes, I say to my husband, put the car in park. He's like, no. I'm like, put it in park now. I'm like, put the car in park. She's sitting there shaking her head at me, and I'm ready to go say, you want to trade?
Right.
You want to get your 5 minutes?
Right.
You want to get your 5 extra minutes? And I'm judging her, so you can go get your nails done. Well, trade with me.
Right.
Go in the special needs lane.
Right.
You do that.
But take it all. Right.
I'll trade with you. We're the short bus people. We're the special lane people. Oh, was I mad. My husband, being wise, because he really didn't want me to go to jail, locked the car doors. I'm like, let me out of this car. Anyway,
we've all been there,
I didn't
right?
kill her.
We've all been there.
But if I see her again.
Right. We've all been there before. With somebody who took a look at us and decided that we were getting a good deal, right?
I'm like, don't judge me, lady.
Right. Right. People are fascinating, aren't they? They're just special and wonderful.
So
but I will say,
what
it makes me think about, because whenever, and I said this a little bit yesterday when we started the show, I said, well, it's great, it's September, but things are changing, and when they're changing, it's always a little bit weird, right? Because everything changes. The light changes, the food that we eat should change every season, the schedule changes, the people we interact with change. And I have a really good friend who is a hypnotherapist, and I remember when she was going to school, she said to me, I learned the most wonderful thing today. She said, everything is constantly changing, but everything that's on the planet, the thing that definitively defines man, man is the only thing on the planet that is constantly fighting for stasis. That we are constantly
that book,
trying
that bestseller, Who Moved My Cheese?
We just talked about this earlier with
Really?
Kelby, that book, exactly.
Who Moved My Cheese?
Who
I'm
Moved My
going
Cheese?
through rage over people moving my
Exactly.
cheese. I want my cheese there.
I said I come in the morning and I always go, who's been in the studio? Somebody moved one paperclip, and I'm like, who's been in here? And I brought up that book to Kelby this morning. So, but we are the people fighting for stasis, and it's a losing battle because we are not going to get younger.
No.
Right?
I'm here to testify.
And summer is not going to stay longer.
No.
You know, it's a losing battle, but it's very disconcerting, and it makes us be on edge, and it makes us have road rage and want to tell people off. And I don't know about you, but it takes like one little moment when I'm already like primed, and somebody can do the final.
I was so primed.
And I'm like, oh, you made the mistake of being the person.
You picked on me.
Like, this, you were the
because I'm going to unleash a year's worth of rage here at everybody else that's upsetting me.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So,
but I definitely
so
want
you're
to
not alone, moms, dads that are going through this. I am right there with you.
No,
I
we all
am
are.
so discombobulated and so like on the precipice of losing it.
Yeah, everybody is. And it's so exhausting getting back to school, all that it takes to prep our kids and to get them back. And for other people, it's like, oh, okay, we're 2 weeks in, so I can settle down now. You know, I've got an IEP meeting on Friday. I'm trying, and we're all trying to, get the information to our teachers. It goes on. Yeah. And then we'll take a 30-second break, and then it's time to get on the holiday treadmill. So, and I already said,
getting on it.
No, we're going to start to deal with that next week.
Right.
We're going to start the systematic desensitization for Halloween next week because we're getting ahead of it this year. We're getting ahead of it. Okay, but
we're actually doing our costume episode early, are we not?
We have to, because we have to every once in a while allow Kelby to take time off. I know, like, it's a sketchy sort of thing, but.
So as you know, we have a very time-honored tradition, 2 years running, of dressing up for Halloween.
But don't give it away, because
I'm not going to give it away.
Okay, all right.
I would never do that.
All right.
I mean, we're gonna expect people to watch. We're gonna announce what day.
Nancy takes this very seriously, which means that I need to take it very seriously.
I do.
That's all I want to say.
I do. Game on, baby.
Please, I'm intimidated.
I think the idea this year is rather brilliant. I came up with it.
It is, yes. I always count on her to be.
But I think
we are the Lucy and Apple of autism. She's the Lucy. I'm just the person going.
Me.
I don't think that's going to work.
I think you're going to outdo me again because I think your props are better than mine.
No, I think there's no way I can outdo her.
No,
but
and you're
I want to
also
get to
a
this
great
story.
actress. Let's do it.
I want to get to this story. Okay. So, and you brought this to our attention. This is in the Washington Post earlier this last month, talking about U.S. probe into Georgia special ed program could have national impact. And why, you ask? Because the Justice Department has accused Georgia of segregating thousands of students with behavior-related disabilities, shunting them into a program that denies them access to their non-disabled peers and to extracurricular activities and other basic amenities, including gymnasiums, libraries, and appropriately certified teachers. Is it only Georgia that's doing that kind of thing?
I doubt it.
I doubt that as well.
Yes, they said that the Justice Department has had a year-long inquiry into Georgia's programs, and the pressure is now putting on state officials to revamp the way they educate students with disabilities, and it's brought hope to advocates in the state who've long tried unsuccessfully for change.
Yes, and I think this is really important because the world needs to catch up with what the idea of inclusion is and how it works, and enough of our schools do not. I mean, it's really amazing to me how few of our schools understand what true inclusion is and how to do it and how to do it well.
And this is an interesting point. It says the Justice Department did not investigate Georgia's lapses under the nation's main law for protecting the interests of special education students, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. Instead, the department focused on the state's failure to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act, a much more powerful civil rights tool, according to legal experts. So they're going in fighting on this, and we salute them. IDEA, by the way, IDEA, was passed in the 1970s as a way to open the schoolhouse door to children with disabilities.
And we have always been arguing, IDEA is the one that gives us faith, that our children are entitled to a free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment that allows them a floor of opportunity in which to access the curriculum. And the thing that I had never read into it before, but recently in looking at it, it also says that they are entitled to get that at the school that they would have gone to had they not had a disability. So shunting our kids and putting them on buses for 4 hours a day to send them someplace else for another program is not what IDEA says.
No.
But I love that this test case is being fought not with that, but with the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Yes.
That might be the way we all need to go.
And they say that the state's 5,000 students that are under this are spread among 24 regional centers. And they said that also the parent described it, one parent described it as a warehouse for kids the school system doesn't want or doesn't know how to deal with. Well, they better get educated.
Yeah, get educated.
Get
We're out of
educated
time.
real quick.
We're out of time. But
That's our buzzword for today is education.
Yes.
And do it yourself. That's not one word, but as we say to Steve Silberman, if you want to make the world better, do it yourself.
Yeah, what are
Don't
you doing?
criticize other people.
Take the finger you're
Get
pointing
educated.
and go like this.
Stop judging.
Yeah. All right, we're out of time, but I want to tell you that tomorrow on the show, we got a great show for you. Jennifer Jones from Autism Speaks is going to be here to talk about some really important events that are happening in Southern California, 2 walks coming up, and an autism safety event that's coming up in just a week. So she's going to be here tomorrow. And then we've got filmmakers from a film that's trying to be made called A Smile Beneath. They've got a really interesting fundraiser asking 1 million people to only donate $1. And when they do, Nancy, after they sell the film, they're going to give that money back to whoever those people that donated the dollar wants to give it to. So we're telling them, act today. Put your dollar in and tell them you want it to go to Act Today. We're out of time. Kelby's yelling at me. He's just muttering now. We will see you tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And give yourselves a hug from me.
Bye-bye for now.